Hello, everyone. You are listening to Who We Ood, an unofficial Doctor Who read along podcast.
Whoa, you changed it up.
Oh, yeah. I am your host, Ben, and I'm here with Cam, my co host, Cam. How you doing, Cam?
I'm I'm happy that now it's like, oh, all right, this book is done. I don't have to
Yeah.
read this book anymore because I've been like I spent a good past 2 days just like I've read majority of the book. But apart from that, I'm doing pretty good. I've been getting a lot into the 80s King Crimson recently. I've been listening to a lot of that.
Oh,
But yeah, I'm doing good. I'm excited to talk about the last of the Gadarene today.
yes. Yep, I'm doing good as well. Also, glad that we're finally talking about Last of the Gathering. Had to just put it off little by little, but we're doing it now. So, of course, we are discussing today Doctor Who Last of the Gathering, written by Mark Gatiss, who goes on to pen many episodes for the revived show. This came out January 4th of 2000. So this was, still the wilderness years. The future of the show is still uncertain.
Post Big Finish though.
But yeah, I guess Big Finish had already started in
99.
999. Though I think Bernice is 98. But
Yeah, but
like,
that doesn't count. I'm talking
I
about
mean,
Doctor Who,
technically.
Ben.
But yeah, it would have been, what's the first one?
Having a blank. Sirens of Time.
That's it. Yeah, Sirens of Time was 99. So that's going. Virgin Adventures is all done as well. Transferred to BBC a while ago because this was the 27th Past Doctor adventure novel.
Is this Mark Gatiss' only past Doctor book?
I know he may have written more. He definitely did at least two. He also wrote the second Doctor historical The Roundheads, and that's also a past Doctor adventure,
Which you have read,
which I
right?
have read, and I'm not really a big historical guy in general, but it was good. And it was like a straight historical. It wasn't like no sci-fi at all. It was just that time period. But it was good. I'm looking on the wiki. Yeah,
Yeah.
he just wrote the Past Doctor Adventures, the Roundheads, and Last of the Gadarene. He also did some Virgin New Adventures before that. Nightshade and Saint Anthony's Fire. I don't know how good those are.
Nightshade is supposed to be really one of the really good ones. That's his first book that he did for Doctor Who.
Hmm.
But of course, most known wrote for the new series, wrote one of I think he is like the writer that has written for the show the most that's not a showrunner. Because he has very close ties to Stephen Moffat, of course, who he did Sherlock with.
Hmm.
He also, of course, did Adventure of Space of Time, which you have seen,
Yes,
and that is just a wonderful film. If you have not watched it, go watch it.
absolutely.
If you're at all interested in Doctor Who, it is possibly the best thing he has ever done for Doctor Who. It is wonderful. But this continuing third Doctor adventure.
Yes. Are dipping our toes into the Hooniverse.
Interesting fact, Ben. Mark Gatiss, of course, like we said, has written a lot of Doctor Who. Fun fact about his writing of Doctor Who is that across all media, he has written for 9 doctors in total, which means that he is equaled by only Terrence Sticks, who has also wrote for 9 doctors. But the only exception of the person who has written for the most amount of doctors is Paul Cornell, who has written for 12 of them, which is insane. But
Wow.
I just thought that was a fun fact to put
Yeah.
out there.
All right. So to kind of very, very briefly summarize the story, the Doctor, Joe, and Unit are called in when an aerodrome in the small town of Culverton, becomes under new management. The townsfolk have started to disappear. and reappear walking around in a daze with a huge smile plastered on their face. Aliens from Gaderene are invading, walking around in the skin of the people that live there. And I guess that's it. And the Master's there too. I had no idea that the Master was in this book.
That was spoiled for me before going into it. That must have been a good surprise for you to be like, "Oh, fuck, the master's there."
Oh yeah, I was very pleasantly surprised. Somehow I did not
W
spoil myself.
we're gonna have to talk about that when we actually get into the meat and potatoes of this
Yes,
book.
yes. So I finished reading this book like a week ago, and I've been kind of spreading it out over like a month because I haven't wanted to finish it a month ago while I'm still waiting for you. So it's not quite as fresh in my memory, so I'll direct it to you. What are your thoughts on The Last of the Gadarene?
I liked it. I think it's a good book. I don't think it's great. I think there's some things about it that I'm not like the biggest fan of, especially towards the end of the book. It really goes up in a high note, and he's taking a lot of inspiration from the best Pertwee serials, like the Green Death and the Damons, and having like this village that is like the village town folk being like invaded in a way,
Oh
kind of
yeah.
invasion of the snatchers type deal. Which you always love, like something like the demons, where it's like including the town folk, and then having the of course the master be behind all of it. Which again, kind of like Aerodrome situation is kind of like the Green Death Corporation in a way. I thought,
Mhm.
which I think that's cool that he's like putting those influences in the book and is really much like making a Third Doctor story that he wants to watch in a way.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I think that one of the strong points of this is the original characters in it. He really gives great details in like a lot of like the original characters in the book, like the when we get introduced to the bishops in particular. I thought like that whole pot was really great and talking about the the differences between Ted and Max Bishop. I thought that like that whole chapter was fantastic, including like the whole first chapter, the first couple of chapters where we're having like the backstory behind Whistler as well. I thought all that stuff was strong. It just kind of get to the point where you kind of just want it to become a Doctor Who story at a point, and we're kind of just waiting for the Doctor to come into the story and actually be a Doctor Who book.
Yeah.
And it takes a little bit of time to get there, but when it does, it is a fun Doctor Who adventure.
Yeah, definitely. The his original characters that are in the story are really good. It just takes a little bit too long to get the Doctor, Joe, and the Brig in Culverton. Like it's the half the book's done before, like we get all about, the kid and his bullies, and Whistler. They're really well developed, but I wanted more Doctor and Joe and Master for more of it. But once they're there, the second half of the book, and especially the like final confrontation in the last like 50, 60 pages are really good.
Yeah. But, like, to go back to just like, the very beginning of the book, I did love, like, the whole, like, beginning stuff with Unit of having them waiting around for the
Oh
doctor
yeah.
and
And the
Joe just,
Doctor's
like
off on his own adventure that we never
yeah.
saw, but he's, me talking about all these people that I thought that was kind of cool. One of
But
his many unseen adventures.
giving us that backstory behind Joe of, like, she's kinda wants to she's thinking that it's time, right? She's
Yeah.
they mentioned that, and I think that's a great way to introduce us to that, like you have that gap between Frontier and Space and the Green Death. I think that it fits really well for Joe's character. And then, of course, when we finally do get the Doctor, there's a little bit of a satisfaction of, oh, the Doctor's finally is here. We are gonna get going. And then, of course, when the Doctor does arrive to the town, it takes a little bit of time for him to get involved in the plot and the story and stuff. But when he actually does, like you said, like in the last fourth of this book, in terms of like this could not be a TV episode. Like it really takes advantage of like this is a media that like we can have like the Doctor flying an airplane and like
Oh,
have like
yeah.
these special effects that could never happen in a Doctor Who episode.
Imagine if
Like
they tried to do the Gaderene crab things coming out of people's mouths, the parasites. Yeah.
it could either be really bad or like very inventive and you'd be like, oh, that's actually kind of cool. But like
Yeah, it's a story that I think Mark Gatiss would have liked to see, and it fits very well in the continuity. A lot of ideas that are followed up on in The Green Death, which was written 30 years earlier,
yeah.
which is kind of cool. A lot of the other books haven't been that like strictly in continuity.
Interesting. I like in terms of like my book Doctor Who knowledge. This is actually the first Doctor Who book that I have actually read start to finish. That's not a target.
Really?
The only the targets I've of the only ones I've read. I never read an original Doctor Who book.
Huh.
I've collected them a lot, but I never gave them the chance of day. Not chance of day. The I don't know what's the expression I was going for there, but I never gave them the time.
Really? I'm
Yeah.
surprised. Like I read the novelization of the Daleks, which was all right. I'm definitely much more interested in stories that, I haven't already watched, and I would never want to read a novelization before I watch it.
Yeah.
So, like they're cool, you know. I'll collect them. I'll bid on a couple eBay lots, but like I'm not often, especially on stories that I've listened to or I've watched more recently. Like I started reading the novelization of the Daemons after we talked about it because I wanted to see how it was different. And I read like 10 pages and it was like word for word the exact same. Like the dialogue was word for word. Felt like I was just reading a script.
Yeah.
I'm much more interested in, if I were to read a novelization that changes things, like the Daleks invents a totally different backstory for Ian and Barbara, and has a lot of changes, within the Dalek story. The guy doesn't fall in the hole; he's actually fine. So that was interesting. So in Doctor Who books, I'm much more drawn to original stories that I can't experience in any other way. So I've read a couple of them.
And which one is like where does this rank in terms of the ones that you have read?
That's a good question. Let's see. I've read Doctor Who: An Exciting Adventure with the Daleks, the novelization, of course. I've read The Virgin Missing Adventure. Let's see. I read The Virgin Missing Adventure: The Menagerie with the second Doctor. I've read The Past Doctor Adventures: The Murder Game with the second Doctor, and The Roundheads with the second Doctor. So this is my fifth Doctor Who book, fourth original Doctor Who book. How would I rank it? That's a tough one. I just wish it was more consistent because, like, the first half of the book, it felt like a drag to me. If it was just the second half of a book for the full length of a book, I would have enjoyed it a lot more. I'd like it more than Menagerie. I don't think I like it more than either of the second Doctor, past Doctor Adventure novels I've read, The Roundheads or The Murder Game.
I'm thinking like once we get to the Seventh Doctor, once we get to do like a because we're gonna have to read a couple of versions. I feel like
Yeah,
Nightshade's definitely up there in like terms of like things maybe to do because I read a little bit of it. Nightshade has like a it's similar to this from what I've read. That like the first couple of chapters is like there's no doctor. It is literally just like he's exploring, like he's just giving you like characterization of like the town folk. But I think actually I think that he does it better in Nightshade. So I'm curious to see what you think of that.
yeah. I'm
But
almost certain I have it.
yeah, but, like, that's the problem, though, with this is that, like, I don't think that it's bad. I think that, like, he does a good job with the characterizations of these characters, and he gives them very vivid backgrounds. Like I said, in particular, I thought the bishops were, like, really cool when we're talking
Yes,
about their history. I thought that chapter really wowed me, but it is kind of hard when you are just like, I'm reading a Doctor Who book.
Doctor.
I kinda want that doctor feel in it, and it doesn't help that, like, even, like, the non-doctor stuff it takes a while even for like the actual plot to kick in without the doctor.
And I think part of it is once we're in the doctor stuff, all those people that we met and know the backstory of are all mindless zombies at that point. Once the action has
Yeah.
begun, none of those people come into play, except maybe the kid bishop. I forget his name. Noah.
Noah.
Like we didn't need a whole chapter of like the kid who's really skinny and is bullied a lot when we
No, he what that was the I think the worst part about this book because it was like it was like you said it had nothing to it didn't come back at all except for like a little thing at the end.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's an argument to be made that, like, going into all those characters makes the fact that, really soaking in that small town energy and all the interpersonal relationships might could make the fact that they all get, turned into mindless zombies, infected with this alien parasite, makes it hit a little harder than if it was just like if the doctor came into the picture
Yeah,
with everything already gone. And then we get a little bit of the resolution at the end of like, oh, now he's not going to get bullied anymore. The bishops love each other again. Yada, yada. I don't know. I'm conflicted.
yeah. Once the master gets in there, and we have that reveal of it's kind of feels like that reveal of the master is him like finally doing what like we said it for almost every master appearance of just like no, give us that good like twist master reveal of like oh my god he's in this.
Yeah.
And they always do it so obvious in like the first pot or two that it's just like oh and it's not even like any dramatic it's not even like play for dramatic reasons it's just he's here now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was a great twist to have
Yeah.
the master actually be orchestrating this entire thing.
And like when he really comes in, it's just like they just say like, "Oh yeah, the Scot and someone from Scotland Yard's coming in," and then it's just like it's real. Oh my god, it's the master. Oh my god, it's great. And like when he of course says his famous lines of "I am the master, and you will obey me."
Yes.
It's one of those moments in the book that you just go, "Oh no, this is Mark Gatiss." Mark Gatiss is just a little boy who's just like being able to write his favorite show into a book.
Oh
Like
yeah. Yeah. I
it's very
think
infectious.
I think speaking of that, I think the dialogue in the book was really well done, especially for the characters that we actually know. Like I could, I could hear John Pertwee, Katie Manning, Nicholas Courtney, Roger Delgado in my head. It all sounded natural and like stuff that they would say.
Yes, I would 100% agree with that. I would say that leads into something I wish the book did have more of, which is give us more Yates and Fenton. Like the story had a lack, it was lacking those two. I
Yeah,
wish that like it was more, they were more involved because I love it when in a story like the Damons where they're more involved. For this, they're kind of just soldiers of unit.
yeah. They're there because they're a unit and they have to be there. Not maybe Mark Gatiss is a big Yates hater.
We don't have like a Benton chapter in here.
No, we have a chapter with some other random unit guy.
Yeah, which I did like that I did like that. I can't lie. I like the random unit guy that was just like and then you like we went into his POV and it was like the it was a man and a woman and a young kid. It's like I liked that aspect of it of seeing it from like a somebody else's POV.
Oh yeah, that was kind of interesting. Someone who is kind of on the outside and has heard whispers of the unit scientific advisor being some eccentric old man.
But of course, like we talked about like the original characters in the book. You know, I would say like the main original character in the book is Whistler. What did you think of Whistler as a character in his involvement in the story, Ben?
It was interesting. He was likable. An old soldier. Kind of wants to relive the glory days
Not gonna lie, he was kidnapped for way too long.
for like 80% of the story. He was kidnapped.
There was a good point of it where I was like, "All right, come on, dude, get out of there." My least favorite parts of the book were like were when we cut back to him. It's just like, oh, they're torturing him again for the answer, and nothing happened.
Yeah.
But I think he like the stuff from early on when we're going on about his character and his history and his past
Oh yeah.
and
The
who he
like the
is.
prologue
Yeah, all that
with
stuff is
him,
fantastic.
really good.
It's just like I said, I think he gets kidnapped for a little bit too long, in my humble opinion.
About Noah and the bishops.
I think that Noah is fine. He acts as a youth figure in this.
How how old is he supposed to be? Because there were times where I'm like, oh, is he like 10? And the other times I'm like, is he like
Forget if they mentioned it.
19? I couldn't really tell. Because he, in different times, he acts one way or the other.
Yeah, it doesn't say it in, like when Noah is introduced. So I don't know, Ben. I always took like he's a teenager. I always just thought he was like 14, 15. That's how I read it. We might be wrong. He might
Hmm.
be older or younger. A teenager.
But yeah, they were good. Their family dynamic was interesting.
Yeah. But I think that like it never really the stuff with them, like I never was as interested as like those first couple of pages when we were getting introduced to like Ted and Max and like the how Max was the one that wanted like loved theater, and then they thought that Ted was going to be running the postmaster, but then it was the opposite. Like all that stuff was fantastic.
It's a little bit
Um,
indulgent.
I liked it. But what did you think of the 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 characters that the story is named after? What did you think of the Gadarene, Ben?
They were interesting. Very, like, creepy. All the, like, the description of them, like, climbing in and out of people's mouths, wrapped around their throats was really good, kind of gross, but well written. Interesting villain or monster, I suppose. Bliss as well. What do you think?
I think that like Bliss, I could just imagine like that would have worked so well on TV. Like you could just picture a actress really getting into that role and like hamming it up
Oh
and
yeah,
like
like a fat or an overweight, overly dressed British posh woman. I could picture it.
like you it would have been so good on TV. I'm sad that like he didn't do a character like that in the actual TV show because it would have been great. And like you said, I think that the descriptions of the Gadarene were fantastic. Um, and I think it's a good idea to have doing like basically Doctor Who's version of the Invasion of the Body Snatchers with them is a interesting concept,
Hmm.
and like having them like the descriptions of them inside their bodies were great, and then like having them always smiling is a great twist on it.
Yeah, yeah, they were good. I'm just remembering a really good moment. Uh, it's like a chapter. It's like from characters that we don't ever see previously or again, but it's a woman, a wife, and a daughter. The husband has been taken over, and the child is like, "That's not daddy, is it?" And they have to like run. They want to run and flee. But then the master walks in, and they get taken over. That was a really good scene.
Yeah, it was very good. Which is hard because like, there's a lot of great stuff in this book. It's just like at the end of the day, it does just take a little bit too long to get
Yeah,
to that doctor stuff.
let's talk about the master.
Great, great at the end when the fake out that you think it's gonna be like when he's saying like the stuff about like I like this body and like he's gonna die, and then he's just like he's like twist, faked ya. Like that
Oh
stuff
yeah.
is fantastic.
But does he die at the very end though?
I think it's implied that like for Gatus at least, I would imagine he would imagine this was the time when Dekada would regenerate into.
Or become the decayed
Yeah.
master?
I love the stuff in this book about the doctor. He really sticks with the doctor and the master at the academy and stuff.
Mhm.
And stuff that we never really got too much delved into in the TV show. And I think it's cool that like, especially for like you think about like for fans that would be reading this book,
Oh
it
yeah.
would have been great to like read this and be like, oh my god, the Doctor and the Master talk about the time at the Academy. Like we're getting more information about that. It's but still like kind of a little bit
Yeah,
mysterious.
yeah, I feel like there's so much you could read between the lines about, like, the master says something, talks about, like, a betrayal. Really, really interesting. Really makes my imagination go wild about what is their history together that we never see. And the doctor seems saddened at the end, despondent about the master's presumed death. And, like, when he's, like when he think when before the fake out, he, like, rushes to the master's side. Really good,
Yeah.
because he does care about him despite everything.
But yeah, like I think that's all I have about Last of the Gathering.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any last thoughts about it.
I think it's cool that got to fly an airplane. John Pertwee would have been thrilled about that.
1000%. And I'm just picturing the CSO version of that would have been
Oh, yeah.
fantastic. It's a shame. Because like, you could picture the way that they would have done it back in the day. There would have been the shot of Pertwee getting into
Oh, yeah, and
the
then we'd
plane.
be Studio CSO in the cockpit.
No, but, like, then cut to plane stock footage of the plane taking off, and then CSO of Pertwee in the plane. It would have been great.
And
I
when he,
would have
like
loved it.
when he takes, like, the cover off, we would have had, like, a fan blowing his hair back as he throws the jars of nitrous oxide.
It would have been
Oh,
fantastic.
man.
I'm so sad we never got it in TV. No, I'm happy that you brought that up because that was my same exact thought as when this happened. Is like, oh, John would have loved that.
He would've. Think that might be it. Good book. Has its flaws, though. I'm gonna continue to look forward to more future books that we read.
Are you planning on since you've read multiple second Doctor books? Is there a third Doctor book that you're interested in
Uh,
reading?
I don't know. My stance has kinda been that I want to watch all the television stories before I do, like, books and audios and stuff. So since I'm done with the second Doctor, I've been focused on the second Doctor. As for third Doctor stories, now that I'm done with the third Doctor TV episodes, I'm not sure. I think I have one other book already, Vertigris, something like that, by Paul Magers. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, I do not know.
I'm gonna say
Moggers?
Paul Magers. With Iris Wildtime, which I'll read at some point.
Yeah, but that one yeah, that one has the other thing of, like, you have to at least read the first book with Iris, Wildthyme to be able to, like, understand that.
Perhaps. What is the first book with Iris Wildtime? First
It's a 4th
appearance,
Doctor book.
Old Flame,
Yeah,
one of short trips in the original Short Trips anthology.
damn.
Um, oh, and she was in some Eighth Doctor adventures, Scarlet Empress, the first full-length novel to feature Iris Wildtime. Interesting. But yeah, I'll probably read some.
Is it like a coincidence that she looks and sounds like Joe, or is that just she's just played by Katie Manning?
I mean, I know in The Big Finish, she's voiced by Katie Manning, and, like, when they do photo shoots for, like, box art and stuff, it'll be played by Katie Manning. Same way, like, they have Bernice's voice actor do photo shoots for that box art. Um, I
I'm
mean,
looking, it seems like
she's
it doesn't have
she's
anything.
a kinda Time Lord, sort of, but also technically not for copyright reasons, so I guess she can have multiple appearances,
Yeah, weird.
and one of them looks and sounds like Joe Grant.
So, like, are we rating this?
I mean, not in relation to the other stories, but just on its own.
Uh,
Well, what would you give it? Is this a 7 out of 10 book? Is this an 8 out of 10 book? 4 out of 10?
7.9. Actually, fuck it. No, I'm just gonna give it an 8. It's a good book. Not a great book, but it's a good book. 8's a good. Yeah, it's an 8.
Give it a 7.8. It's good. I'll write that down somewhere just in case. Alrighty then. Thank you, dear listeners, so much for tuning in. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share us with all your Doctor Who fans. Share it with all your Doctor Who friends. Follow us on TikTok and Twitter and Facebook. I support us. We really appreciate all the support that you give us. And be sure to tune in next week where we will be where we will be ending our discussion of the Third Doctor with a retrospective and ranking of all the episodes. And have a wonderful rest of your day.
Peace out.